Hi, it's Dawn from Dawn's Dirt. Dirt can mean gardening, dirt can mean animals, dirt can mean homesteading, dirt can mean politics, dirt can mean religion, dirt can mean anything we want it to mean. So super excited for this episode today. I've got my guest Wade here, and Wade is a fellow coach. I've been taking a coaching program through Caregiver, and Wade is a fellow coach with me. So welcome to the show, Wade.
Hi, thanks. Thanks, Dawn, for having me.
Perfect. Yeah, so excited to have you here. So let's start off. Can you just tell us in a couple of sentences, like who you are? Like who are you?
Like I said, I'm Wade, and I'm with Red Haven Coaching, and going through a coaching program with Kayla Betts or Awake and Winning, and that's how we met. I live in the interior of BC on a family property that we're homesteading with animals and our young family. I have a wife and two two daughters that are 7 and 8.
Okay, so much fun. And you're in the middle of BC, Canada, and you have a homestead. So tell me a little bit. Sorry, you say the word homestead, and I'm like, ooh, what is this? What's going on? So let's start there. What is your homestead? What are you doing?
So basically our goal is to be as self-sustaining off of it off the land as possible. So baby steps, we do still have to work. So I work full time as a mechanic in a town nearby. But we have goats and we have chickens. So we do goat milk, and we haven't had to buy any goat or any milk from the grocery store in about almost a year now, which has been fantastic. And then, we have about 50 laying hens that we sell eggs and have eggs for our consumption. Wow. And we have about 25 established fruit trees, tons of different apples, Spartans, Galas, lots, and then 3 different pear trees and 3 different plum trees. Or variety of plum trees and multiple trees there. So it's actually where I got a little too much sun yesterday, was pruning fruit trees. But so we're going strong. This will be year 4 of living here. So baby steps towards that. Basically our biggest challenge has been getting the food preserving. We got tons of it. We grow lots, but it's getting it stored that we're struggling with. But baby steps and a little more each year, and it's fulfilling and awesome. So that's in a nutshell.
I love it, man. The coach in me is just like, woo, going. Do you grow a garden?
Do you remember the toilet paper wars of 2020? Are you worried about being prepared in an emergency? Are you tired of being a slave to the corporations we purchase from? It's time to take control. Become ungovernable. Take your food system into your own hands. Hi, I'm Dawn, a coach dedicated to helping you live like grandma used to. Self-reliant, resourceful, and prepared. Whether it's raising chickens, growing a garden, canning your own food, or even milking a cow, I'll teach you how to thrive and survive in the space you have, big or small. We can even potentially make some money off your homestead. Visit Dawn's Dirt today to book your free jumpstart call. Together, as a team, we can get you self-reliant and ungovernable. We, the people, have the power to take back control. Remember, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Let's build a better future and a community, one skill set at a time.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we got huge garden. And we've actually had to downsize what they had. But we started going vertical more than they did, which has been awesome.
What do you mean by vertical?
So arching and like a old car shelter with fence up. So like our beans grow to 10 feet tall and whatever instead of 4 feet. And then you can actually see in them or get in them and not have to send the kids on the inside to pick the beans.
I love it. Now I have to do the, like, I'm going to tell you about my beans. My beans when I had my farm were 16 feet tall when I had my former greenhouse. And then my tomatoes, when I was done with them, they were 75 feet long. Like they were crazy. That was, I don't mean to like play the whole, like, what's that game? I don't, yeah, I'm playing a game with you now, but yeah, that sounds amazing. I love it that you're doing that. I love it. So with your children, they go out and they work with you and they help you outside, and like, is it a family affair? Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They love it. So they get their own little section. They get about a, I don't know, 5 by 10 section in the garden that's theirs. That we help
Yeah.
with if they need help. Like they still are just 7 and 8, so they need help. But they're actually, this year has been kind of a turning point. They've been being able to focus a little bit more. They're high energy, so that sometimes bringing them down to being able just to stay in the garden has been tough. But this year it's been they spend a significant more. And but yeah, no, they do everything with us. They do firewood with us. They do, I mean, as much as they can. They're sometimes they can't even lift them, but they're out there weeding. And yeah, they come to chores, not every time, morning and night, but they're out there and they know how to milk the goat, and they collect the eggs other than the ones that are pecky. And yeah, they love it. Like our oldest is right on, like, how many eggs every day. And
Yeah.
so we know that we got enough for our customers and we got enough for us and everything. And yeah, we homeschool, so they're involved in absolutely everything.
So what an education for them, really, because they're learning business. You said they're 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they're learning business right there. They're learning agriculture. They're learning where their food comes from. They're learning work ethic. They're learning business. They're learning numbers. They're learning math. They're learning customer relation. Like, wow. I know when I had my farm, people always say to me, "Oh, you're off the farm now. You've got more time for your kids." And I'm like, actually, to be brutally honest with you, I don't. Like last year, I had my first job in 20 years. In town, I was working about 40 hours a week, and I saw my kids less because when I had my farm, yes, I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but my kids came with me to market and they would work for me. They would set up. We would, spend time in the vehicle. They would, customer relations. They would, the family farm kind of depended on my kids working. And so that's so cool that you're homeschooling your kids and you're getting them a really practical, very practical education. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, we're very, yeah, fortunate to be able to. Um, I can work full time, and my wife doesn't have to. Um, so that's a blessing in itself. And yeah, just get them out, get them grounded, and get them working in the dirt and mucky is just something. Like, I grew up on a farm, so we did it as kids, and to be able to do it with our kids is awesome.
That's huge. I am so happy for your little family. So amazing. Okay, so let's shift here. So I met you in Kaler's coaching program. And so we're taking the same program through Kaler. And so you're an online coach as well. You're just starting into it. And so what's your coaching niche? Like what are you trying to get into? What are you trying to do?
So I'm a coach that's helping caregivers who are supporting their partners, husbands, and wives through long-term illness, and that can be whichever the illness, not specific. My experience is cancer and lymphoma, and with my wife, um, but there's as I just want to support the caregiver. There's lots of supports. Well, I wouldn't say lots more supports for the patient as the patient's going through what they are, but we get kind of sloughed off to the side, or we're standing in behind as the caregiver, who is an important role, in, especially if it is your partner, right? And it's a hard role because you can't. It's hard to differentiate between being their quote unquote nurse versus being their partner, and it's hard to be both. And so I want to help kind of bridge that so that it can be both. But also, yeah, not so black and white, right? Just both of them, but there's still connection and still things for a partner, but also helping as a caregiver.
Okay. I love it. And it's yeah, you always think of the patient, but you're right. You don't necessarily think of the person behind the scenes or the person, picking up all the drop balls. And, we may or may not get into it, but I understand what it means to pick up drop balls behind someone in a different way. And so, yeah, very cool. So tell me about your story. Like because you're not very old and you've got young kids and, I'm sure your wife is not very old. And so tell me about this like whole cancer thing. Like start at the beginning there. What went down? Because wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm 35 now, and this was 7 years ago. So at 20, when we were 28, because we're about 6 months age apart. So we had one daughter, and our second was came to us right about how this all came up. So she was a month early, our second daughter, and basically it was my wife's body saying it's time. But we knew that there was something going on, or she did. She felt that there was something else that wasn't just pregnancy or even a difficult pregnancy happening. So we had made probably eight or nine different hospital trips to different hospitals, to different doctors, with varying different symptoms, which were very confusing. And basically it got missed through blood work and whatever. And and even actually she had her last ultrasound before our youngest was born showed masses that also were kind of sloughed off as not like, and not to say that an ultrasound person should know what a cancerous tumor looks like, but it didn't get, everything just got sloughed off as pregnancy, as
Wow.
as problems with complications, whatever. So yeah, she was a month early. She spent.
Sorry, so her cancer got missed. You're going to these ultrasound appointments. You're getting everyone looking at these things. So you've got doctors looking at these ultrasounds. You've got techs looking at these ultrasounds. There's abnormalities, and it just got missed.
Yeah, and there was actually cancer markers in her blood work, and that were missed. That were, I don't really know what else to say other than overlooked, or just like, we're young. It's whatever. You're pregnant. There's lots of symptoms, but yeah, no, it got missed. So our youngest spent. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thinking back, it's it gets my blood boiling a bit. Of course, we're very lucky and fought hard that she's still here, but if not, then there was unfortunately a lot of malpractice things that went through that were just like, they shouldn't have been missed. And we've been told by doctors in hindsight, not the same ones, but like, it shouldn't have been. It really shouldn't have been.
How much faith sorry, I'm just going to ask the question. How much faith does that put you in the healthcare system? Like, whoa, there's blatant things sitting on pieces of paper and documents and blood tests and all the whole things. And you've got people just like missing stuff. Like, how much faith does that put you in the healthcare system?
Well, actually, it's not that we don't have faith in it, but it really opened our eyes to that they're human too. We do put nurses and doctors kind of on pedestals, right? That they need to be perfect, and yeah, they miss stuff, and really, we should be angry, right? Because she just about died multiple times because of the fact that they were missed. But that doesn't serve anybody, getting angry over it. I still get like, I can feel my blood pressure going up as we talk about it, but that's what I like. This is why I'm doing this, is because we need to remember that they're human. And we need to remember that to ask the dumb questions, or, well, not even remember, but you get into alarm, like you instantly get into alarm mode when you're having these problems and you go into a hospital. You're instantly into it, whether, unless you have good experience. Unfortunately, we have good experience. So we now, of course, this is now in hindsight because we've been through so much, that we've learned to be able to keep calm, talk to a doctor, ask the dumb questions, make them dumb it down, but also make them stop and think about us as not just another patient, but as a human being and an individual.
Oh, you know what I'm taking out of this? Like I was ready to like pick a fight here too and like get all riled up and like rah, and then you just say they're human beings too, have grace and patience, and it just took the whole thing. And even for me, just having a conversation here took my blood pressure and my, my injustice and my like I have a temper over injustice, and it just like whoosh, calmed it down and went, oh yeah, you're right. And just the grace that you have, like, wow, this is some huge lessons right here in grace and patience and the human experience. And wow, like, thank you for sharing that. Like, yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's I mean, trust me, we've been there. We went through all this, and I mean, fortunately, like I said, she's still here, right? So that changes how, perspective, and the ability to have some perspective in the fact that, well, she fought like crazy to be here, and we'll cover that a little bit as we go here. But so yeah, our daughter was 7 days in the NICU in Red Deer, and so still some kind of issues at that point, feeling a little better. But then we got her home about January 1st, and then about 12 days after that, I had went back to work. My mom was there. She started feeling even worse again. She had a baby doctor appointment, and so she just about didn't make it out of the doctor appointment that day, feeling real crummy. Had trouble getting out of bed. Like, my mom had to wake her up and kind of push them out the door. And so she went from ambulance, she went in ambulance from that doctor's appointment to the hospital. Had enough to be able to call me and say, like, something's really wrong. And so I dropped everything at work. I was probably, like, I worked in the oil field, so I was wherever any given day. So I was an hour and a half about by the time I got there. And she's still sitting on the stretcher in the emergency at Red Deer, and at Red Deer Hospital. And she barely recognized who I was. So we're at that point, we're what is going on? And at that point, this stuff that we've talked about, not even crossing mind, like, just like, what's going on? Why is she still on a stretcher? What, like, she is not, like, let's go. So she gets into a bed. I'm in the waiting room. And then, so probably 45 minutes later, the doctor comes in, or somebody comes to get me in the waiting room, go into it, and she is no idea who I am, gone, like, and alive, but like not with it at all. And so they have no idea what's going on, because you have pregnancy, you have all this other, or not pregnancy at that point, but recent pregnancy. So they're thinking all this stuff. And so I laid it all out on the table and blew them away by like dates, organized, like, what's happened, what symptoms she's had, how she's had, and 8 hospital visits, what we went there for, all this stuff just plucked from memory, because this is what's important, is that they know when you get into this situation, hopefully you never have to, but when you do, you need to know what's going on and what's been happening and when, and what the treatments were, symptoms, everything. So basically, she got admitted into the ICU and put into a medically induced coma, basically to save her life, because at that point they didn't know what was going on. And
Okay. So let's just get this straight. So she has a baby early. You get out of the hospital, so baby's at home out of the NIC unit. She's not feeling good. Your mom brings her to an appointment. She ends up in the hospital, not knowing who you are, ends up in a coma. And so you are left, you're the husband, you're the father, and you have this 7-day-old baby, and you're trying to work way up north in the oil patch, like, wow, all of it just fell on you. Like you're the guy that has to pick up all of the balls. Like how'd you do that?
well, fortunately, we had good family support that I could rely on the kids being looked after, and that's another story. But that they're going to be healthy and looked after at home, and then so that allowed me to go mostly all in. Difficultly, like how do you? One thing that I still struggle 7 days later was having to make the decision of picking where to be. Was it picking to be because I didn't leave I spent every night with my wife every day for 7 months straight in hospital, everything, and having to choose. It just the having to choose is hard enough, much less which one you choose and if you choose right or wrong at where you need to put your efforts. So fortunately, the kids were good. Yeah, it's a newborn, and there's lots of newborns. That's their most crucial time, but at this point, we didn't have a choice. And
so you did what you had to do for your family, and honestly, I just welled up with tears, because my story is very different than your story, but I just welled up with the tears just hearing you say, I sat beside my wife's bed for months on end and just was there for her. Like that is taking that vow to. Yeah, wow. You looked after her and you cared for her and you manned up and you did what you had to do, and like that, honestly, that's very, very, very impressive. Yeah. So that's just my opinion, unsolicited opinion, but yeah, pretty cool. It shows your character.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you said it in sickness and health, and that's what it came down to. And yeah, of course, if we didn't have anybody to keep the kids, things might have, had unfortunately been different. But we were lucky enough that we did, and that gave me the capacity to be there, and so I was all in. And there was, there was a lot of down days, but we like I would never have changed that decision ever. It's just.
Okay.
No regrets on that choice. But.
So she's in the hospital for 7 months. So we left off. She was in a coma, and you're with her. So what happened over those 7 months? What did you figure out, and what did you do over those 7 months?
Basically, it took about a day and a half, I think, about for it to kind of get figured out what was going on. So they got a CT scan where they seen the masses from a big picture and not just on an ultrasound. And so they're trying to figure it out and again, I don't know if it's luck or just the way it was supposed to be, but the right surgeon came on shift and she was in surgery 35 minutes after he got on shift. It was his first viewing of like that scan, and he's like, what are we waiting for? What's going on? Like
Wow.
And so he was in. Yeah, I didn't really even know what was going on, but happened so fast because we're just sitting there in limbo and nobody knows what to do and worried. And then all of a sudden this surgeon comes on, and he comes up and he sees me and he says, we're taking her, we're going to surgery and we're removing these masses.
What kind of masses were they? So he comes on, he sees the results, he goes, what's going on? And he puts her into surgery. What kind of masses are there? Like what are they taking out? What are they doing to her?
So it ended up being tumors. on her ovaries, and they were about grapefruit size tumors at this point. And then there was a section of her small intestine that had cancer on it as well, that they sectioned off. And for most of her journey through it, she had a ostomy. So her intestine coming out, her intestine comes out externally out of her body, and everything flows into a bag.
Well, I saw, sorry, this is a little I saw a little TikTok video on that where this guy, he had this little thing and it looks like a little, it's a little piece of body part on the outside of and then you put a bag on it and you just poop in there, right?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I watched a little TikTok on that. I don't know. It popped up one day. You know how scrolling is? You're like, what is this? Oh, what is this? Okay, so your wife had or has or what's going on now? So you got through the surgery. Let's keep going.
So she got through the surgery, and that's when he said, the surgeon said, I can't say for sure, but I've seen enough cancerous tumors to know that it's cancer. So then, of course, that starts the whole, when you get that diagnosis and the holy crap and what do we do from here and everything. So at that point, it really was kind of a turning point. They were able to wake her up out of a coma and put her on dialysis because actually the tumors were growing so fast and were already so big that they were starting to die. And so she had sepsis. So they were dying and going into her bloodstream. And that was actually what had caused all the other problems, was these tumors dying off because it was only about, early December so about a month that they started picking up these cancer markers in her blood. And again, this is hindsight. We find this out after, not at the start, in December. So they were just dying so fast that, then she was able to get on dialysis and get her blood cleaned out and all this stuff. So we're in Red Deer still at that point. Then we get out of ICU and she starts, and then we start talking about the process of the cancer journey. And so they actually ended up sending us home, and we made it about a day. And then we were in a hospital or in an ambulance heading to Calgary to our, into the ward that would be our home for the next 6 months.
In the Calgary Cancer Center.
No, it wasn't in the cancer center. It was at the Peter Lougheed. So still in Calgary. So, still great place, still doctors that would come back and forth from the cancer center, oncologists specifically now at that point. She there's a few touch and goes through there, lots of things going on, and lots of, she had internal bleeding from the intestine stuff, and when they cut out the section that was cancerous, they had to go back in, and because her blood pressure was dropping, she's bleeding internally, and just insane at that point. And then it was Burkitt's lymphoma, which is a pretty rare lymphoma. It's a Hodgkin's lymphoma. Most lymphomas that you hear of are non-Hodgkin's. So that,
I don't know, you're talking Greek to me now, because I've not really had cancer touch my grandmother had breast cancer and got it lopped off, and it was good to go again, right? But I've not really been around too much cancer. So can you explain some of those words just briefly? What does that mean?
So lymphoma is a blood cancer. So it's cancer that's in your blood, and I don't know much about it either. And then they lump them into two. Somebody named Hodgkin's must have discovered this type of lymphoma or whatever. But then Burkitt's is the name of this specific, and again, I don't really know the technical. It's other than it's pretty rare. It's actually usually children or elderly that have it. It was not often that somebody in the middle of prime of their life would get. So it was quite surprising at that. And again, I mean, with the amount of problems and things that were missed and whatever, who knows if it was actually Burkitt's? Like, really, we don't know. We were told at one point that it was Burkitt's, but as we finish off our story here, you'll more in the they're just human stuff will come up here. But so we're in.
Yeah, let's keep going here. Like I'm fascinated. Like wild story so far. Okay, keep going.
So we're in the Peter Lougheed in Calgary, and basically they hit her with and I can't remember, a very aggressive chemo. First round, and then we're gonna start in the normal, what they would normally do if things weren't happening so fast, protocol. So we're basically, she gets dumped with a whole bunch of chemicals into her blood, and because that's all chemo is just medications, and then to wipe out everything, wipe out cancer, but also wipe out good stuff. Right.
So I just have to ask this question, because we were chatting about homesteading. We are in Kaler's program. We both wear a bit of a tinfoil hat. How do you feel about this? Right? Like, so this is pre-COVID probably, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got pre-COVID. Our tinfoil hats aren't fully formed yet. Some of us, mine was a little bit before that anyway, as far as the food system goes. But like, how do you do that? Like, how do you navigate all that? What's your in the moment with all these chemicals, the medical system? They're telling you what to do. I struggle back and forth with the medical system. I just had a procedure myself in Red Deer. And so like, yeah, it's the trust and the, back and forth and the money behind the drugs. And so how do you navigate that? What's your thoughts on that? Just real quick here.
At that point, we weren't quote unquote awake yet to a lot of the stuff that we know now. At that point, it's life-saving. And if they're saying, again, these people that we've put on pedestals are saying that she needs this to save her life, then you have a tendency to go with it. And I think that's more what people are. For in our instance, there wasn't time to say bring it back to something natural to help with and let your body do it. There wasn't time because the tumors were growing so fast, and like there was no way to not have medical intervention.
Okay, and I really actually appreciate you hearing this, because I feel like in the tinfoil hat world, we're all like put in this like one big box that no, we're going to say no to all of it or whatever. So even hindsight, like even, we're however many years later, even with what you know now with the tinfoil hat stuff, even with what you knew then, it was the right decision is what I'm hearing you say, that these medical things are sometimes just the right thing to do no matter what. Am I hearing you say that correctly?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So we would have been able to, now in the stuff that we know back in December, we would have been able to have the confidence to push back on them to say, no, something like, we don't believe that you're looking at everything. You're missing something. Right? Because now we've brought them back down off a pedestal, and we've remembered that they're human. And so that we can have a human conversation. Yeah, they can try and talk above, but you have to force them to come back down to your level and what you understand. So yes and no. In hindsight, her cancer got taken care of with that first surgery. And then, so chemo was basically a cleanup. And so at that point, had we known that most of her cancer was out of her body, and then this, like, the sepsis was out from blood, from cleaning out her blood. I forget the dialysis.
Dialysis, yeah.
So had we known, and if we were in this situation, if we were here 7 years later, and we know what we know now, at that point, we may have been able to take it naturally through diet, through whatever, all the other stuff that we know now. But at that point, they were saying she needs it to save her life. So what else do? You have 2 small children at home. Are you taking it into your own hands when 10 days ago she's on her deathbed, and where is she now? And who was the ones that put her there? Well, doctors and surgeons. They saved her life. So then you move on to the next doctor, but you still have an innate trust that they're doing things right. And most of them, they believe they are doing things right. They know their knowledge and their experience. So if they've seen, and of course, they don't see the aftermath of chemo as much. So they don't see that it was actually chemo was harder on her body after the initial surgery than the cancer was.
Okay, interesting.
Chemo.
So, yeah. What I'm taking from this too is from this whole conversation, because you keep bringing it back to they're only human. I had a conversation with a doctor here, maybe a month ago. I know a doctor, we're kind of friends and whatever. And so we were having this conversation, and, it's just so tough right now in society because you have the doctors who have the education, and really, like, without their education and without them being doctors, like, yes, there was mistakes, and yes, there was the human part of it, but I mean, you don't know how to go in and take the ovaries out, right? Like, I don't know how to do that. Like they're trained. And so I just appreciate the fact that they're only human. They're doing what they're trained in. They're doing what they've been taught. They're doing the best they can, really, probably in many cases. I don't think a doctor's out to, like, hurt you. Like, I think that even goes against their oath, right? And so I really appreciate the part that I appreciate the most about this whole conversation too is just how you just bring it back to the human element. And even with all the tinfoil hat and stuff, like, it's just really cool to just bring it back to another human being and just that human connection. And even in your conversations as you're talking, saying, like, we had to talk to the doctors and bring them back down to just face to face. I'm a person, you're a person. Let's just, level with each other on a human connection and on a human element. Like, that's fascinating. So I feel like if anything, there's a takeaway from this podcast. Wow. Like, that's it, is like, let's stop pointing fingers and being dicks. Let's just, start to realize that there's a person with a heartbeat and, a decent person on the other side of that. So I that's a little rabbit trail, and that's where my brain went, but yeah, keep going with your story.
To that point, like, they are educated and they go to classes that are designed by somebody else. So if you want to be a doctor as a kid and that's everything you want to be, what's the reason? Well, I want to help people.
Yeah.
Right? So then that doesn't change. That's what they're there for. They went through the schooling. I don't think it's their failures. I think it's their schooling failures that they haven't realized or connected that their mind, the body, nutrition, everything, all that stuff hasn't been connected. It goes straight to medical and chemical intervention now in the way that, and that's not the doctor's fault. That's not the oncologist's fault. That's not your pediatrician's fault. Yeah, they can, get where we at. They can put their tinfoil hat on some and learn and whatever and get there. But
question.
Yes, question. Yeah.
I think it'd be good if they questioned.
Yeah. And I think we're getting there. More and more are, and realizing that, of course, in our situation, like I said, it's tough to say whether there was going to be a different decision or not.
For sure. I just want to throw something in here too, because I just had a hospital stay too. I just got, a little surgery in Red Deer. And after my surgery, they brought me this bottle of Ensure. So hopefully I don't get sued over this, but this bottle of Ensure. And the nurse said to me, she said, "You're going to need some protein. So here's this protein drink, Ensure." And I said, "It's full of chemical. Like, where's the bone broth and where's the steak? Like, if I'm going to get protein, that's where I'd like to get it from." And it just shows that, Ensure, or that company, is dollars and cents. They're doing their business, and they're probably like, getting a deal on all this protein drink, for these hospitals, for these patients. But really, we need to get back to, and I think we need to have the communication between, like, yeah, why are we choosing Ensure, which, if you read the ingredient list, is like, yeah, there's vitamins and minerals and sugars and who knows what. And I didn't even read the bottle. But why couldn't they bring me bone broth? Like, wouldn't that do the same thing? Like, just out of surgery, bone broth. Yeah, I don't know. That's my little rant. Like, we need to get back to our food, and we need to get back to nutrition and basics and good food and the root of the problem. I don't know. Another little rant. Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, the number one drink, right, is in a hospital is ginger ale. Is a can of ginger ale, right? That's like, it's chock full of sugar. And I don't know if your mom did it, but my mom, flattened a can of ginger ale when I had a stomach ache, right? And they do it in a hospital too, right? And it's like, so that, you peek in their storage room and they got flats of ginger ale. And it's like, what are we doing? But then again, this is where I come in, and I'm a caregiver coach. So what does the caregiver do? Well, they go to the store, they get some ginger, and they ferment it. Okay. And then there's your nausea relief. Is some real ginger ale. It doesn't have the sugar, doesn't have everything. It's just ginger, because that's the part of ginger ale that helps the nausea is ginger. And is that ginger real? That's coming from a can? I can't say if it's not is or not, but yeah, that's, and that's all part of the things that I've learned, and, try and help the people that can't see anything but what's right in front of them at that point, because they have their concerns. And so that's where I'm trying to come in and help with that.
And you're doing the best you can. They're doing, again, we'll bring it back to that. They're doing the best they can. You're doing the best they can. Your wife is doing the best she can. Everyone's just doing their best and doing what they think is best for everyone. Like, no one's got malintent here, I don't think, right? So.
No, that's right. Everybody's trying, and in our situation where it was so fast, and that you're just guessing at that point, like, and hoping and fighting and everything like that. So back to she had 5 rounds, ended up having 5 rounds of chemo, and the first one was a very aggressive one. So that landed her back in the ICU, and at this time in Peter Lougheed. And so basically you got your drug regimen, which took, depending, 3, 4, 5 days. That wipes your immune system out, and then your bone marrow starts to rebuild it. So she had to be in hospital till basically her immune system was back up, so that she could fight off colds and other viruses and whatever on her own. So that happened 5 times. Well, the first one, we didn't leave the hospital at all. We stayed there and then went into the first round of the actual Burkitt's lymphoma protocol. So yeah, that would take 2-3 weeks. So we had a couple days at home in between one of the 4, I think, and then we just chose to stay and just get it done. So that took about 6 months all said and done. We were home at mid to end June.
Okay.
But so what we found out in April at that time, while we're in the mid, was when she had a CT scan in February, she was clear. she had no cancer in the middle of February. We didn't get told, and we didn't find out until April. So let's wrap our head around that one. Yeah.
So your tests come back, you have no cancer. Okay, you're in the clear, you have no cancer, like, yay, we beat it, we got through it. And you're still going for chemo and all these things you got done in June? Like,
yeah, that's right. So basically what we think they were thinking and not telling us is that we would leave and that we wouldn't finish the chemo protocol.
So what would the benefit be? Like, what's their rationale? Because I could see that. I could see that of myself. You know, I've thought different things. You know, I've not been faced with cancer, so you get real brave when you've not been faced with the C word. But, so I don't know. But yeah, I could see that. You know, you're clear, you're free, you've got a baby at home, you've got life going on, you're young. I could see that you'd probably just want to go home, right? So what do you think the rationale? Why? What do you think, in your opinion, in your, you know, your glasses looking into the situation? What's that about?
Well, I think it's to make sure that it doesn't come back. I guess. I haven't quite wrapped my head around it being just a precautionary to you know, you have the protocol and this is what we do, and we do it from start to finish. And so the one things that hospitals and medical people have a hard time connecting life-saving health and health. And the chemo was the hardest thing she did, right? Like, she fought for her life, and there was medical intervention and there was surgery, but she was in a coma at that point, right? So the hardest thing she did was have chemo, and the side effects and the body side effects that still 7 years later are like the short-term memory loss. She calls it chemo hands, like just hands that get sore because that, like, this chemo's into everything. It wipes you clean. It's like wiping a hard drive on a computer clean for a fresh start. And so, yeah, had we known that it was going to be as bad as it is, we'd at least ask some questions. But it was 2 months after a clean scan that we found out about a clean scan. And you can blame it on, you know, we had 5 different doctors and they do different cycles. And then finally one happened to mention that it was clean, and then flabbergasted that we didn't know. And it could be anything. It could be the fact that the hospital gets paid $100,000 per chemo patient that completes. It could be money. It could have been the rotation of doctors and each one thought the other one was going to. It could have been, well, it doesn't matter. You need to stay anyways to finish the protocol. Whether that has validity or not, I don't know.
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm hearing from all that too is, you know, like, I just feel like, and through COVID, you know, because we've had the 2020 and all of that, I just feel like through your story and hearing all of it is, I think as society, as people, human beings, left, right, up, down, I don't care where you fall, jab, not jab, whatever. I just feel like we as the human beings in our communities rubbing shoulders with one another, I just feel like maybe all of us should just take a step back and just start having more conversations and questions. I just feel like if we're going to take anything away from it, it's just have more heart-to-heart human connection conversations about different things and entertaining different options, you know, bone broth versus, you know, like chemo, you know, like, you know, it's not going to hurt to just question. And I think that's what we need to do now and I think that's what 2020 did, is it just has opened up the door for people to question. is this the right decision? And again, there's no malintent in anyone. I don't think, from what I'm hearing you, I don't think anyone maliciously said, like, we're going to do this to your wife because, we're going to get her. Like, that's not the case. Like, they're just doing what they feel is best for your wife. You're doing what you feel is best for your wife. She's, well, in a coma and has no choice at that point. But, like, I just, yeah, wow. What a wild, wild story. So let's finish it off here. Where are you at now?
Well, we'll be coming up on 7 years out post chemo, but we've crossed the threshold of 7 years in remission, and there's been no signs. No, everything it generally has been uphill. There's still, side effects, everything, but that was kind of our awakening a little bit too. The start of it, COVID kind of pushed us across the awakened line there. So that got us kind of like, okay, try and find root cause, try and find whatever, but start the diet, get to whole foods, grow as much as you can, find a local farmer where you've seen the cow that you're eating and whatever, right? Like, we raise our own meat birds now. My wife can't eat red meat yet because she had too many blood transfusions and her red meat spikes her iron. So she eats poultry and white meat only. And so we raise that ourselves. And so she's not 100%, but mostly on our own homegrown meat. And we have a big garden. Like I said earlier, we preserve as much as we can. And that, that's the where we went to get back to, right? I had an oil field job. I was gone. Like, I was home every night, but not like she had, busy kids, whatever. You get into this, whether it was diet that caused it or not, we don't know for sure, but that's what we can control, is that what we've put in, and just minimalizing chemicals, right? Like clean shampoo, clean body wash, like, when there's less than 5 ingredients in something, and you can say the name of most, like, that's the start. That's the easy things to do. Your body can handle a lot of stuff. I've seen it. Like, I've seen it in my wife's body handle the shit.
Well,
right?
Obviously, your body can handle. Like, she's like a miracle, really. Like, yeah,
absolutely, yeah. So keep the chemicals down to a minimum and control what you can by, where your food is coming from. Like I said, body wash, detergent, toothpaste. Keep the chemicals and the junk out of there as much as you can, and that really gives your body a fighting chance to be able to cover the rest, right? Because there's, in this day and age, everything, like, they still think plastic is safe for food storage and all this stuff too, right? Like, it's not. We're not there yet. So you need to minimize as much as you can, so that when your body can handle the rest for most part, if you give it the right environment. And even cancer, most cancers, your body handles it. Like, right? Like, a tumor is your body collecting bad cells into a tumor. And then once they've done that and you give it the right environment, it can actually take the tumor and dispel it and get rid of the tumor. Like, I'm sure there are lots of people who have cancers that don't even know. Your body has handled the bad cells. If you give it the right environment, lots of sleep, good food, then you don't even know.
And it'll starve itself out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, wow, what a great story. Okay, so we've got just a few more minutes here. So let's take it back to your coaching. So, wild story. You helped your wife. I teared up because, wow, what a great husband you are. So now you're coaching, and you're coaching partners. You're coaching you, because what was that like for you? So you're helping her. Even this whole podcast, we're talking all about her. Yeah. But now let's bring it back to you, and your coaching program.
Yeah, because that's what it is. It's them, right? It's all them. And man, if I had somebody that was a bug in my ear that had perspective, like, holy, it could have changed a lot. And that goes as far as like, oh, well, maybe you should, rent it, like sell your house, rent an apartment in Calgary, get your kids and your caregiver down there. And, because we lived hours away, so we didn't see them right there. She's like less than 6 months old. So even something like that, in having perspective but to bring it back to this person, and also because our focus as a caregiver is them, how do we help them to the best of our abilities, right? You got medical, like if you got a medical professional that's helping that, let's bring the other side of health back, and let's give the caregiver capacity to be able to do that, because their focus is them. And it's really hard to get a caregiver's focus back to themselves, because, well, you don't see it. Your focus is on them.
So you're so focused on the other person so how did it affect your health, really? So you're living in what, a hotel or a McDonald's house, or like what were you doing this time? Like what were you eating even? Like
so Peter Lougheed, they were good enough. Like there was a couch. I stayed in the room every night with her. When we were in the ICU, I slept on the floor. I was there every possible minute. Like eventually, as she got better enough to, I was able to go for walks. There was a Tim Hortons across the street, a mall across the street. So I was fortunate. A nurse gave me a little hint to, just eat her food. She's not going to eat it. You get your menu every morning, times to it, so that it's enough food for you. So I eventually got into, I was eating her food, because in chemo, you're not eating. Like the food is the last thing on your mind. Yeah, you're so nauseated, so whatever. So I ate her food. But yeah, there was a few days where I'm wrapped around the toilet, because all I ate for the past 5 days was A&W and KFC, because that was the only option. And then I spent days puking it all back up. And right, and then you crawl back out onto the couch in a hospital room, and what do? Like you go get what, when you're in the middle of a city, eventually we had a bar fridge, but like, so you have to go get a salad and whatever. Like that gets old really fast, and so does fast food really fast, and especially when you're wrapped around a toilet after doing it for so long. But yeah, like, and that's my goal, is just to even stuff like that. Like, okay, you maybe don't need to be there. Like in my situation, I didn't need to be. Get an apartment close, has a kitchen, get your kids down there so that they could come every day to light up her life every day. Because this is a dark place at that point. You have no idea what's going on. Like, we didn't know she was in remission in February, and we're doing it for 3 more months. It's dark there. And so what does your children do? They light your life up. And so, you sell our house, get them there, get this other health side. The doctors, they got that. If you're in the situation where you need them, you can let them take that side of the health, but then let's get the mental and the other side of the health.
So what I'm hearing you say is you help people in the midst of this turmoil, in the midst of this life altering, like, what do? We don't know which corner to turn into. You're sleeping on a couch. She's in a bed, like doctors, crazy insanity. And you're there to help the family, but also help the person with the caregiving, and help with some clarity in, questioning a few things and making different decisions, and taking your experience and helping others through to make the best decisions for their situation. So that's what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Amazing. That's so cool. I mean, I'm doing that with homesteading. I'm helping people make the most of their homestead. I've made piles of mistakes farming and, in agriculture and growing vegetables and having chickens and sheep and blah, 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 blah. So I'm helping people through their homestead. You're helping people through this crazy, caregiving where you're just basically there for your partner. And that's what coaching is about. It's about the teamwork, and it's about, helping someone else and coming alongside them with your experience and your, and just being there with them to, help them through whatever it is to get to the other side with the best outcome possible. So as coaches, maybe we're kind of like the doctors. The doctors have their best intentions. We have our best intentions as coaches. So yeah, pretty cool. Any last thoughts here?
No, we covered lots of it, and you nutshelled my goal and my mission very well. Is just get your mind back to you a little bit, get yourself the capacity to not only help who you're caregiving for, but yourself, so that you can continue doing it, and it doesn't burn you out. And whether that's a perspective shift or whatever, right? Like lots of it is just at home care. So, it might not be as extreme as mine and as fast as mine, but there's ways, and we'll find them, and we'll make it so that you can be good for your partner.
Because the better you are, the more you have capacity to take from your cup and give to them. And so if your cup is completely empty, then there's nothing left to give.
Yeah. You can't fill their cup with your empty cup.
No. That gets into a little of my story, but we're not going to get into that right now. Okay. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Fascinating conversation, fascinating story. Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Red Haven Coaching.
Okay.
And so that's the same through all of them. And and there you can find my story a little bit more. And I mean, we covered it pretty well, but and just my mission to help everybody that hopefully isn't going to be in as bad a situation as I was for those.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today. And really appreciate your time. Fascinating story. And I just love the measure of grace around all of it. That's just, I was ready to fight, and you just brought it back down to grace. And I was like, oof, Dawn, you needed a little measure of that too. So love it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was great.